How about that? How about we just unplug the mic and start there? Can y'all hear me without? Yes. All right. At least we got that far. Let me check a couple of connections here. Appreciate y'all's being patient. As funny as I went through a whole spill. Okay. All right. I don't know why the sound is not working through the mic, but we're just gonna go without it. So yeah, it'll work. It'll work. It'll work. Oh. Yeah, let me move you a little closer. What's funny is I went through an entire spill for the last, I don't know, how long has it been now? Is it gonna tell me? Quite some time. It's probably been what, 15 minutes or so now. So yeah, just leave my yeah. Anyway, how about I yeah. How about we try that again? How you doing, guys? Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome to the live. Yeah, yeah, we're still figuring this out. I am absolutely curious as to why the heck that microphone did that. But either way, we're here now. Yeah, t-shirt. I will get to the website and the new merch. I'll get to. I'm going to save that more towards the end. I do want to kind of discuss that a little bit. Um, the two things I had covered already in full. I'll just give you a summary. The 407C. That was my main point there was I wanted to make sure that if you know anybody or some of the things that I've ran into is just there are people out there, and I blame the manufacturers more than anything that they coined this term a drop-in refrigerant as a marketing tool, marketing term. I really wish they hadn't. I wish they'd have just left it alone and used the more proper term, which is in it's a replacement, right? It's a retrofit replacement. It's not a drop-in. Uh, but I think what that created is a lot of people have think now that you can just use they're close enough together in saturations that you can just use R22 saturation temperatures in place of 407C and what I've had happen a handful of times over several years since 407C really became something we routinely used is the numbers won't make any sense at all talking to the technician over the phone. And I finally asked them and started quizzing them on how they're checking those temperatures, and I realized what they're doing. You turn around and immediately plug that into a saturation chart. The Danfoss's ref tool used to be a refrigerant slider. And now everything suddenly starts making sense as to what they're seeing, what the readings they're having, everything, and so forth. So, um, yeah, and Glide, it's surprising. We've had blended refrigerants long enough. I would have expected Glide to start to become a little more of a common terminology, but I mean that's okay. It's just it comes down to us as the industry leadership and educators and those of us who have a voice to really just talk more about it. Maybe that's something we could do to try to help improve that is, you can't help what people don't know other than teach them what they don't. So, I don't know. It's something we can work on. It's uh not what I would expect at this point, but it is what it is. Um Moving on. The screw compressor. That really turned into a major thing. And I really wasn't in trying to make a big deal for Train in the fact that they messed up. They weren't the only ones that made mistakes with that process. And what I mean by that is um, I learned a lot through this myself. There's several things I wish I would have done better or differently. Uh, so, for example, I wish I would have done something to actually better seal that compressor whenever we got done with it. Doing the plastic, doing the tape, if we had only left it for, let's say, overnight, I think that would have been fine. But it turned into several days, like an entire weekend of heavy rains, and then several days into the next week before we got good enough weather and we got the parts in both to even be able to go back and dive back into that compressor. What I really wish I would have done, and something I'm going to do next time, is even if I have to reuse the old gaskets and seals and things, put that compressor and actually bolt it back together to the point to where we could have put some form of pressure on that compressor. There's a suggestion made in one of the videos or one of the comments. I mean, that we should have flowed nitrogen through it, buttoned it back up enough to flow nitrogen. And that would have been a really good idea. And part of the problem was I was very frustrated and upset about the situation we were in at that time. And that definitely clouded my judgment in doing what was good for that compressor. I also didn't expect it to take as long for us to be able to get back into it and finish it as it actually did. So you put those two things together. That was my mistake. That's where I messed up. And like I said in the video, I was able to get the compressor to run and come back online, but it only lasted less than a week. It didn't have it didn't run for very long before it was just done. So we tried. We thought we had success, um, and actually, I was able to turn that video around pretty quickly. So it turned around and failed probably a day or two after I posted the video of us finishing the project. So um, yeah, it was rough. So we're having to take ownership and replace that compressor now. It's not cheap at all, but we're working with Train's helping us out because they made mistakes too. And I'll kind of explain a really interesting scenario I've never ran into before this. But the we're putting a new compressor in. Thankfully, I did go over there and we did test it. Nothing else in the system seems to be damaged. We didn't find any other acid or anything of that nature. Everything's just isolated to this compressor. And what it is, it locked up. It did exactly what I was worried it would do. Is those bearings they just had too much happen to them and they locked. Just that's all it was. But um, something interesting. So this air cooled chiller, it's our RTAA in Train's database. They have this chiller cataloged as a 400-ton air cooled with 100-ton compressors. I think they said it was supposed to be four 100-ton compressors. So it was two separate circuits, 100 or two 100-ton compressors each circuit was how their system has it saved. In reality, what I actually have is a 270-ton chiller with two 100-ton compressors and the 70-ton. The 70-ton was the one we were working on. So somewhere, somehow, something got crossed up in Train's own database, and that's part of what led to the inevitable issue. Is, I was telling them that I had a smaller 70-ton compressor, but whenever they were looking everything up, that's not what they were referencing, and I didn't realize that. We didn't catch this until after the compressor had completely failed, and we had a pretty serious meeting with Train to discuss this whole thing and who had what responsibility. Um, and that's when we found it. And they were pulling it up, and we were working through it, and then they realized, like, holy crap, this isn't even saved in our system properly. So one of the takeaways that I will give you that I have from this whole experience as well was, um, be be very upfront with the fact that use the compressor model serials in those particular scenarios. Be cautious of just using the chiller serial number to try to hit it all. Most of the time, they'll probably be fine, but when you run into a scenario like the one I had, uh, that's really bite you. The other thing I did really wrong was I should have put more attention up front into verifying the parts we received. Didn't. Um, I made a lot of assumptions. We were just trying to get the job done. Got in there, tore it all apart. And you know, if I had taken more time up front to verify my parts, I would have saved us from that entire thing, and I would have saved us from having to change this compressor. Um, and that's a pretty major hit. If you've never had to do a job like that, it's extremely expensive on the company's end. Much less, say we were actually billing for this to the customer. It's even makes it even more expensive once you factor markups. Oh, let's see. Let me just kind of scan the chat real quick here. Yep. No, 100%. Yeah. Mistakes. I'm good at mistakes. I'm very good at finding out how to make them. Anyway, I'll move on from that. YCIV oil sensor. That went really well. Pretty smooth job. It was kind of surprising. So the 515 Loctite that sensor gets put in with, I didn't actually shoot any of the process of us having to break the sensor loose to get it out. I was busy with my hands in the middle of trying to help do it. But one of the things, and one reason why I'm really reluctant to use 515 very much, is because it's supposed to be a refrigerant sealant, but it turns into like a red Loctite, like a thread lock, because it hardens so much, and we had to put a vice grip, and like we had this whole just on-site made apparatus, and we finally got this thing to break loose. I was really worried we were end up gonna break the brass housing or something before it would give way. It did. The 515 finally broke loose for us, but it's that those are situations why I get really cautious, and I'm not a huge fan of 515. If they could find a way to where, as a refrigerant sealant, it works great, but I wish they would make it to where it wouldn't harden like it does, or at least as extreme as it does. That's one thing that I really appreciate about Nylog is, well, while it may not work for every application, uh, it does a lot better long term job in my opinion. Anyway, um, moving on from there, the low pressure transducer. So this was the video that I was only able to take pictures of the display and kind of read back to you and walk you through my thought process, and that's just most of the comments around that were just to kind of discussing the process and how we got from A to B and things. But I mean that would be when you walk up to a chiller, or you're gonna run a service call and something like that. I mean that's the process you go through, and I really appreciate one of the things that York does on their air cooled series is how much information they capture. Now, as I did say in that video, and I'm going to reiterate here, is you have to be really, really careful using that history log, because it's a momentary glimpse at the point of shutdown. The problem with that, and what I mean is, some of those readings are going to be incorrect because the machine is already in shutdown simultaneously as it's snapping it. So, for example, like you didn't really see me hone in very much on, say, like the compressor speed or the compressor amps. Those two things are perfect examples, is because depending on how fast the software reacts and grabs that snapshot, the motor speed and the amps and things may be significantly down. Um, even though that wasn't truly the case. They may have been much higher than they were when it took the snapshot initially. So those are things just to kind of be aware of. Some of those readings are going to be a little skewed, but the temperatures and the pressures and things should be more than close enough, because those aren't going to change as rapidly as, say, the amp draw or something like that. So those are usually okay numbers to pay attention to, maybe with a little bit of margin for variance. But anyway, uh, that's um, that's where uh, that's the process. So you saw kind of my start to finish of, I sat there in front of this chiller, and this is how I got to what I was looking for. And I referenced multiple history events to see what happened at each event and deduce down what I believed was the problem. And we haven't had a problem with it since then. Once we changed the transducer, we changed the suction line sensor just to be certain, and all those problems went away. So yeah, it's a really handy tool to use. Um, do I ever use oil additives? I do, actually. So one oil additive that I do really believe in, I've had very good results with, is acid scavenger. And I know that there's people that really don't like using any kind of additives or flushes to the systems. And while I do agree with heavily cautioning using them, I do also believe in using them. So, for example, anytime we have a major burnout or we're converting oils in a system, anything of that nature, my technicians are expected to use RX11 flush, and however much is needed. If we have a burnout, anything of that nature. Now, majority of the time, I'm not going to say always, but majority of the time, we're still going to use suction line dryers. We're still going to use high acid cores. We're still going to do these things, but I do have an expectation they're going to flush that system. And I've come in behind systems that weren't flushed and that weren't properly treated too many times, and found compressor failures or things that I actually, I'll give you an example. I've went up to one system and I had to clean it after it had three compressor failures in less than a year. All three of them were burnouts, and the second two were caused by the first one. If they had properly taken care of the system on the first one, the other two compressors would have never had to fail. But they didn't, and that's what it led to. And it wasn't until the at the time was a homeowner called me, as a second opinion, someone he trusted, whatever. And I went through that process. Compressor ran for years after that, never had another problem. So yes, I believe in those things. Then I will follow up, and you have to read, because the scavenger bottles are so many bottles per so many ounces of oil. So I do follow those guidelines of how much scavenger I put in those systems. I've done that on. I haven't done it on, say, like difficult. Of course, we don't, you're not going to have a burnout or something like that. But if you're talking like an IntelliPack RTU or something along those lines, just an R, we'll stick with an RTU to keep it basic. Uh, yeah, we use it. I use it all the time. I trust those products. I don't trust a lot of others. Right? There's a lot of products like stop leaks, all those kind of things. I know some people swear by them, and they've had great results. Whatever. That's great. I'm glad you have. I don't trust that product myself. Especially, granted, I mean, most of the guys that do push those things, they're working on, smaller systems that have a lot more. It's not as big of a deal, when something goes wrong, is where I break something, it might cost me $50,000. Okay, just kind of give you some perspective. Uh, Getting to chiller work. Scavenger suction on dryer work great. They do, Jason. They do. How long have you been growing your beard? The beard, let's see, 2 years. Yeah, I think it's like 2 years, something like that. I mean, I trim it on occasion now, um, but yeah, it's been about 2 years, something like that, give or take. Let's see. Crazy unfortunate. Fortunately, I have never had those issues where I dumped a compressor back to back. Special on occasions, like bad oil foams up. Okay. Um, let's see. What do you mean? I read directions. I'm not very good at reading directions, so you can ask my wife. But there are certain ones I do read, and when I'm adding those additives, yeah, you better believe me, I'm going to read them. All right, let's see. Training classes. I do want to bring that up. I do have another round of training classes about to come out. Probably this week. I'm maybe it'll be this week or next week. We had our November classes last week. So I got those filmed, and we did a boiler class, and we did a automation controls heating class. So both of them are pretty successful classes, but the boiler class, what I ended up actually doing, and it's something new. So you're going to see one of the technicians actually teach that class, and the intention of it is it's an extremely basic approach. It's not like an advanced boilers, or just a very surface level general approach as to this is what a boiler is, this is what it does, these are some of the things that we check. And I intentionally had one of our technicians that are kind of growing and has been developing in that area teach and lead that class as a means of helping him really push himself and his limits and his ability to understand and teach boilers. So something I tell people all the time, if you've never taught something, you really begin to understand how little you know or how much you struggle with a topic when you have to stand in front of people and actually present that topic in its entirety. So you're going to see some classes like that coming up where the person giving the instruction is not going to come across as an expert in the subject, and that's okay. That's kind of on purpose. I'm still there in the background helping fill in wherever I need to or help guide whatever I can. But it's going to be somebody they're in the process of learning this thing themselves, but they've learned enough of it to try to teach others who have absolutely no idea what this thing is, what it is, and how they can explain it. So another example of that, for a December class we've got scheduled, I'm going to have another technician teaching on cooling towers and some of the basics and maintenance parameters and stuff around those. So again, these technicians, they've never stood in front of a class and taught before. Part of my point is, please go easy on any comments or anything you see as well in the comment section. Anyway. AKA HVAC 2, LOL. You are great beard twins. Yeah, I've said it before, but I do really look up to AKA HVAC, Andrew Greaves. I've never actually got to talk to him, speak to him, or anything else. He was one of the ones that inspired me to even start this YouTube channel to begin with and try to help our own technicians, which then evolved into the rest of you. Um, I just when he had to stop and I realized that nobody else was really doing it to the degree that he was doing it. I decided to try to pick up where he left off, if you will, and try to be another source that people could look to that does the heavy. Um, so if he ever decides, I'd really welcome him back. I know he's doing his thing with Navic now, and I really appreciate all the work he has put into making this industry a better place. Let's see. The RTU. So the RTU I had that ended up just being that in the test mode, the unit was moved into stop. Yeah, I told you in the video the technicians are going to be mad when they found out about it, and they were. They were. It's kind of funny. We were talking about it after the fact, and even after the video had posted, and they were telling me as they were watching the video itself, Now, granted, that we had talked prior to me ever even posting that same while I was on site, I called them and talked them through it, but they were getting to relive it as they were watching the video, and we were kind of chuckling about it because, yeah, they were legitimately upset at watching how everything rolled out and how I found it, and it just bam, all of a sudden it was there, and it came down to just a display issue. Personally, I believe that if that down button had actually been working, uh, I don't think that would have turned into such a big deal that it did. But it is what it is, Now, what I wanted to bring up though is I did run into something on the roof that I had never seen prior. It was a smaller the same series of carrier RTU, but a smaller version was on a lower roof back behind me, and they were having a bunch of condensation, or they were having a leak down in the space, and we've been struggling. The technicians had looked at this a number of times. We're really struggling to try to pinpoint this leak. It wasn't when it was raining. We flushed the drain pan several times. I mean, we sat there, just ran water in it constantly. Was just going through this whole thing, and the coil's a draw through coil, and where it was dripping was down in the return ducts, and so coming out the bottom of the RTU, it just goes straight down on the back side of the evaporator coil. It just goes straight down for the return. So it made absolutely no sense as to how this water was coming through. And I didn't film any of this, but I figured I'd just kind of talk about it. What I ended up finding was whenever I opened the panel to where the return section is and the filters and the backside of the evaporator coil, I noticed that there was a bunch of uh, like the white calcium water stain on the panel on the floor of the RTU between where the return drops down and you get to the filter rack. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then whenever I pulled one of the filters out on the bottom row, I noticed that the bottom of the filter had gotten wet. And then I looked into the track of that filter tray, and I saw that it had that same calcium deposits. And then the filter beside it also had evidence where it had gotten wet as well. So that really got me to thinking. So I looked further back, closer to the coil, because where the filters are, I mean, you got several, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 inches between the filter rack and the actual coil itself, where it kind of goes back in behind it. And I noticed again just all of the water condensation, and so I knew it couldn't be the blower having anything to do with it because it's on the wrong side of it, and it'd be pulling it into the blower section, not flowing backwards into the return. And I really got to looking, and I stuck my head up in there, and that's when I saw it. The let me see if I can even depict this. You've got your coil, and there is a plate that comes up from right here to the coil that butts up to the end plates, and it came out and it made a corner. All right, so your coil, plate, and there was a little corner right here, right off the end plates of that coil. And on the other side is your U-bends and your TXVs and everything inside of the blower section. That whole sheet metal panel was sweating. And it wasn't leaking like condensate through, it was literally sweating. And so whenever I opened the blower door and looked inside, I could see where all the U-bends were just dripping down as they were designed to. I mean, it's the way it was intended to be done, but they were just kind of dripping down onto this plate, and it had gotten to the point where it was allowing the plate to get cold enough that the condensation was cooling it down enough to cause it to sweat on the back side, and that condensation was then running down and pulling up inside of that return section, and eventually getting into the filter tray, and then inevitably down through the return into the tenant space. Really, really wild. So when I saw it, it was a cool morning, and there wasn't much load, so I only saw with one refrigeration circuit kind of cycling here and there. But even with just one running, it was creating enough condensation that I could see where it was kind of getting wet. So what that tells me is if we got a fairly heavy load, and we had a lot of humidity in the air, which we deal with a lot of humidity anyway, but heavy load, a lot of humidity, it tells me that would have gotten enough condensation on it that it could have caused what I was seeing. And sure enough, we went in and we took the stick-on foam insulation, the little like Armorflex insulation, and we completely uh, insulated that whole panel where it made that little corner piece. And we haven't had a problem since then. They haven't had another leak come back. We've had several warm days since then. That was, I mean, heck, that was a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, whatever it was. Anyway, that has eliminated their leak problem. We've been kind of fighting that problem off and on for a little bit of time. So that was really interesting. Spent enough time on that, but I did want to throw that out. Da, 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 Yeah, so what you're hearing in the background is actually it is our goats. So we've got a kid. She's currently staked off in the front yard, and we've got her mama, and then one of the other nannies, which actually I think you might be able to, yeah, you can kind of see her back there. That's mama. Mama's getting a little far from the kiddo, so she's not happy about that. Anyway, you that's what you hear it in the background. Um, uh, what point in your career did you feel like you were on your way to the top? Um, I'll let you know when that happens. So yeah, CJ HVAC journey. I will. I don't know. I mean, I don't see myself that way. I guess I just. I don't know. From just because I've been in your position, I've followed YouTubers for quite some time before I ever became one myself. And you hear us talk about sometimes how we never saw this, whatever, da 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 da. It's all the old cliche stuff, and it's hard to believe it sometimes. And a lot of times it can almost feel like false humility, even. Um, but kind of sitting in that position now, I see, yeah, I've had some success and I've had these things, and it's not going bad for me. Obviously, the channel has grown significantly. I mean, I'm pretty sure I broke 7,000 subscribers today, which is amazing. Um, I just I don't know. I don't see myself like that. I just don't. I don't know. Sometimes different set of eyes. Yeah, I thought it was a goat, boy. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely a goat. Thumbs up, gents. Where are you? I am. I'm at my house. So this is my front porch. You're seeing my front yard behind me. Um, Mike Stevens or Stevenson was asking. So I live out in the central Texas region, west of Austin. So we've got some property out here that we're currently on and whatnot. Let's see. Thank you, Roy. You work CPRE. Yes, sir. Not a problem, Nathaniel. Uh, just when you think you're on top, bam, something happens and humbles you in the field. And that's 100% true. Uh, this trade has a very unique ability to make you humble. Let me tell you. Prime example. You want a prime example? We just talked about it earlier in this live stream. That train screw compressor. That's a humbling experience if there's not one. Um, I just yeah, a lot of mistakes made. Just yeah, humbling, very. So Mike, I'm actually from East Texas originally. A lot of people may not know that, but I came to Central Texas, Austin, in 2018. But I grew up, born, raised East Texas. Came here for we always wanted to settle here in the Central Texas Hill Country area. It was always a dream of my wife and I's, and it's just this. What you're seeing is just us making it happen. This has been a goal of ours, and we've taken just one step at a time to get here. So East Texas is a nice place, but we've absolutely loved it here. Anyway, chiller change out. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Had a lot of fun doing it. Honestly, that job could not have gone too much better. I mean, there was a few things kind of here and there. It wasn't perfect, but it went really, really well. Like really well. So, really enjoyed that project. And part of my goal for the videos, I just wanted to kind of give you a window and let you see some of the things that goes into what it takes to just make a job like that happen. You know, something of that scale, of that size, and actually um, just seeing it through start to finish. I mean, it's a major undertaking. A lot of people, a lot of things go into that kind of thing. So anyway, I hope that experience kind of gave you a glimpse of just what we have to do sometimes and how big things can sometimes get. Let's see. The outside air units. Um, oh, before I get into that, Jason, they're doing great. They're doing absolutely wonderful, and they're surprisingly quiet. I will give them that. I did not expect them to be as quiet as they are, and so you know, Carrier seems to always be trying to kind of play catch up a lot of times to what like York and Train and others are doing. Just my opinion. I don't mean that as a harsh criticism. I just mean that as an observation. But um, they've got a pretty quiet system. Those systems still have a lot of flaws, in my opinion. I'm not going to dive into that now, but um, they've been really well. They've done well. The outside air unit. So that's the condenser that everybody we'll just call it we'll dub it now the rat's nest. Okay. If you don't know what video I'm talking about, I think I posted it maybe last week or earlier this week, something like that. But uh, I've had a couple of service calls there now that y'all have got to kind of see and witness. And yeah, the rat's nest is chugging along. I think the fan motor came in. I think on Friday. We finally got the new motor in for it. So coming week we should get somebody on site, get that change back out, and get it wired properly this time. It is a very challenging unit to troubleshoot. It's challenging to also do the replacement. I'm not upset, nor do I blame how that motor got wired incorrectly. The way everything kind of comes through there, as you see, it's a scrambled mess. We try to make the best of it. I'm not going to put a ton of time into trying to clean it up because it's just, in my opinion, it's not worth it. The thing has had so much butchery happen, and it's in bad shape. But it's not going to be around for much longer. So we are actually going to, and we did this with the unit beside this one in the penthouse beside it. We've already done this, and we did it last year and or the year before that. May have been the year before that. It was something like that. Anyway, I believe 2022, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Anyway, we're gonna take that condenser out, and we're gonna pull the coils out of that York air handler. We'll also strip the controls out of it as well, and we're gonna go back in and install a Daikin VRV retrofit system, and so it's gonna turn that the refrigerated side of that system into a VRV based system. So what we did on like the center penthouse, this one's considered the west penthouse. So the center penthouse, we did that. We installed engineered spec coils. I mean, the whole thing was a custom job engineered specifically for this, and it works wonderfully well. We've had very little issues with it once we got it tuned in. That was the only major thing we had was just kind of getting it working right to begin with. It was our first time doing it ourselves, but anyway, once we got all that, works great. Has done a really good job. So that's going to be the plan for this unit. Is it's going to go away. We'll strip it out. We'll go back in. We'll put the VRV system in. We'll retrofit it. We'll make all that work, and that will finally pluck that just absolute disaster of a mess from our daily worries. Very much looking forward to not having that thing around anymore. Let's see. Hmm. No, honestly, you know what's surprising? I've had people, Eric, kind of coming off of your comment. Um, I've had people literally in their 50s come in this trade, go through school. I was actually, when I went through trade school, what, 8, 9 years ago, whatever it was, um, when I went through that process and came out of it, it uh, there were my classmates were in their 50s, and they've now, several of them have gone on to become very successful in this trade. Had zero prior experience, zero prior background. That trade school was their first real exposure to HVAC. And I've brought in apprentices. I've hired apprentices that were in their 50s, and they've turned around and they've done really good things for themselves. I've got apprentices right now on my team. They're in their 40s, and just they're killing it. And so the short answer there, Eric, is absolutely not. At 35, I mean, you've got more than enough time. Actually, one of my supervisors that I currently have right now, he got into the trades in his early 30s. Started school in his early 30s. He was going to go the corporate route, was going to go into finance, do all these things, and he'll tell you the story. He got to the point where he's like one or two classes away from having a finance degree. And he got to the point where it was time he had to go intern to finish out his master's, bachelor's, whatever it was. Shh. Anyway, when he got to that point, he went and did an interview for an internship. And when he walked in and he saw just the whole building full of cubicles, and he would just be a cubicle in that space. He said he just about had a panic attack. It wasn't for him. He immediately he finished the interview, walked out, dropped out of the program, decided to give HVAC a try after that. Went to school for HVAC, and now he's just killing it. I mean, he's in his mid 30s. As in just a couple of years' time, he's earned his way into a supervisory role inside of our team, and like the dude's doing a really good work. So yeah, it's not too late. Never too late to go. Skip the. Yeah. I don't suggest residential. Yeah, if don't get me wrong, guys. Residential guys are required. Personal opinion, I started off doing residential. I'm not trying to mud, but it's not for me. It is for some people. It is not for me. And I'm going to suggest, because I'm biased, that you go heavy commercial because, well, I'm biased. It is what it is. So yeah, if you have an opportunity to come into the heavy commercial side, I mean, you can see my videos. I mean, it's a ton of fun. Anyway. And at 19, I'm 42 now. Yeah. Everyday carry, EDC. That video actually turned out pretty well. It's my first time trying to do something along those lines, and yeah, I really appreciate the responses on that. And a lot of people said that they definitely wanted to see the full truck review and everything. And I've actually got a new truck now at that, so it's gonna happen. It'll probably happen sometime in December, hopefully. My schedule tends to be a little crazy, but that's my goal. My goal is sometime early part of December, try to make a day, come out here, shoot it all, make it all happen, and then let y'all see it and kind of let you see my truck load out, what I do, what I use. Yeah, now a little thing I'll throw in there is I do a lot of time, more supervising now, and the further I've gotten into, the supervising side and the heavier chiller side, stuff like that, my truck has kind of evolved that direction. So I don't do on a typical basis like an RTU compressor changes and stuff like that on a routine like I used to. So you'll kind of see that reflected in my truck loadout and what my daily stuff is anyway, regardless. Um, Residential 2 years, fine, commercial site. Daniel, you're right. It is hard to get a lot of companies to give opportunities in the commercial side, especially the heavy commercial. Personally, I'm not really sure why that is, because we're so starved and looking for those people that we're not the only ones. Most of our competitors, we have open conversations between. I talk to the other service managers on occasions, and we share the fact that we can't find the right people. So. I don't know. I know it's different area to area and things, but I you're not the only one that finds that struggle, and I wish it wasn't the struggle that it is. I really, really wish it wasn't. But go apply apprenticeship though. So that's one thing I will throw out there. Really, like, don't try to come into a heavy commercial company expecting to get a full-fledged position, because we can't. Like, as a commercial company, I cannot do that. What you are used to seeing on, like, even a light commercial, I won't even go as far as residential. Say you're just a light commercial tech, that's what you've done. The biggest thing you've ever seen is 10, 20 tons, and that's your everyday. You're gonna really have to humble yourself, and you're gonna have to come in, even if you've got 20 years at it, come in at a pretty low level, because again, I'll reference back. Look at some of my videos. The things we see and touch and do. I mean, the normal RTU you may see on a daily basis, maybe 100 tons, and the complexity and the things that goes into that system is so much further than what you are used to seeing. I cannot, in good conscience, send you out there because I'm going to set you up for failure, because that's not something you've ever dealt with before. And that's no disrespect from a commercial company, but I tell you, if you really want to get into this side of the industry, despite whatever prior experience you had, it's going to help you, but you're going to be humble to do it. Let's see. Yeah, the 5 or more years of experience is definitely a tough thing. Um, Chiller PM. That wasn't really so much of a detailed video. It was more of just kind of a fun tag along, if you will. I wasn't trying to use that as a crazy in depth, like, this is how you do a chiller PM. No, it was more of a, just, hey, I'm here doing a chiller PM. Why don't you come along with me as I do it, kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed that. We are trying to sort through and deal with that one chiller. It's been a problem for a while. We've really, yeah. Anyway, this is the same plant that we put that York chiller in. So the York YK that's in that plant, I do have a video, or I've got actually a handful of videos where I've talked about that project, and I've done a chiller change out video for that, where I just shot some time lapses and different things. So if you haven't seen that, that would be kind of I'd encourage you to go see it. That was this same centrifugal plant. It kind of show you where I had to tear the wall out and get the crane. Like, it was the whole thing. But yeah, that was. I hope everyone realized how I got the service valve wrong on that. I made a complete mistake on how I did that. Now, Nathaniel, yeah, I really appreciate that, bud. Wow, I don't even know what to say towards that other than thank you. Yeah, holy crap, appreciate it. Uh, yeah, it's something that I see a lot of is the purge. A lot of people get really mystified by the purge assembly and how it's supposed to function and do things. And I've actually, so there is a video that I did, I don't know, last year I think, or something like that. Uh, I don't remember when I did it now, I guess. Anyway, it was on a CVH E machine, F. Anyway, it was for a train centrifugal chiller overview, I think was the video itself. I encourage you to go look for it. I don't know if I'm not sure how I can throw the link up or anything like that. I don't have any moderators. It's just me here. But anyway, that video, I do spend some time, and I even talk about the regen cycle and how the regen tank plays a factor into trying to capture some of that lost thing. So I've talked about the purge unit, the purge assembly, quite a few times over time. And I encourage you to kind of go look through some of those train centrifugal chiller videos. That's where you're really going to see it the most. Uh, if you have any specific questions on that, feel free to send me an email to kind of ask them or talk about them. And I may even just try to do a specific purge video to where that's the whole topic of the entire video is to discuss and go over a train purge unit. Anyway, how do you keep good talent, Jacob? I honestly, it comes down to how you treat people, how you take care of them. The biggest things that get people that want to come work for our company is how much we invest back into our people, right? When it comes to um, giving them training. I mean, you see the videos I post. Those are live trainings that the technicians attend, and they can either join them remotely. So we do remote meetings where they can sign in and watch and listen and interact. If say they can't come to the shop and see it in person, they can watch it remote or they can do it in person. Either way, we try to make training as available as possible, and that's what so many technicians, especially because the majority of the trade is so young at this point and is so inexperienced in this trade out of just what has happened, with everybody retiring out, yada yada. That's the huge hunger that people have. So train them. Don't opportunity, right? One of the major things that you know that people get tired and they leave. Hey, kiddo, you're good. She's right there. Calm down. One of the major things that makes them want to leave and move on is the fact that they just they get stuck. They get stuck in these opportunities. Or a prime example, I just hired a guy who started off, went through school, and has done all this work and has been working as a startup tech for this company locally, and I hope that's not bothering y'all too much. Let me know if that's kind of loud in the background. Anyway, he's been working as a startup tech for this company, and it literally got to the point where he wanted to continue moving. He wanted to become a service tech and all these things, and they wouldn't let him. They would not let him because, it's not that they weren't looking for those technicians. Because they had gotten used to having him in that role, they held him down to that role. And that's wrong. You're going to lose people doing that. People aren't going to want to stick with you. And so you're forcing them into a position where they have no choice but to go find what they're looking for somewhere else. My challenge to you is, Jacob, is don't make them do that. Create an environment within your team and within your company that they can find and do and get those opportunities in-house. Those trainings, like I was talking about earlier, where some of the training videos you're going to see coming up are technicians who, those are opportunities for them to really step up and improve themselves. That is how you do that. So you pay them right, you pay them well. Now you pay them fair. You got to keep that in mind. I'm going to pay you what I feel is legitimate, but at the same time, I'm not going to short you. right? So that's something I take very, very strongly, and I push very hard with our ownership. Is, you know, whether we like the payroll or not, if we want to keep the people we've put all this investment into, and we want to continue to see them to grow, we have to be fair in what we're giving for them. And, as much as they're investing into themselves and our company, we need to make sure we're investing back into them. And one of the ways is compensation. So those are really critical things. Is you have to do those things right. You have to do them well. Um, I know that we're not the highest paying company out there, but we do pay fair. I will keep up with your skill level and in terms of your pay, and I'll be real with you as to your skill level is. You may think you're worth a lot more than you are, and I'm going to be honest with the fact that you're not. But this is how we can get you there. See, that's the trick to that conversation. Okay, so I see where you want to be now. All right. Well, here's a roadmap on how we can get you there. All right. That's how I keep a strong team as best I can. And, I don't allow things where, you can't stop it 100%, but in terms of technicians playing games with each other and manipulation and lying and these just all the things that inevitably cause a shaky team and that breaks itself down, I don't allow those things to survive within our team. We have a very, very close team, and we've intentionally built a close team, and those things play a part into keeping technicians because they're working with people that they really want to work with, and they're actually becoming stronger and better together. Versus having people that just they do the opposite. With just whatever they have in their lives, they end up creating a lot of negativity around them that makes people not want to be there. And those are things like you, as the company owner, as the supervisors, whoever, you are the gatekeeper to that team. You are the one that is responsible for keeping a healthy environment and quality technicians that everybody pulls their own weight properly, right? Getting on a rant and tangent here, but this is what I do, and these are I take very seriously to keep a strong and healthy team that people want to stay at. They don't want to go somewhere else because I've got their back. Anyway, woo, got me rolling on that one. Um, yeah, there's a lot of comments come through with that. Yeah, he wants to. Yeah, see if y'all can hear the. All right, moving on. Um, website, the website. So the website is really close to launch. There were some kind of unexpected things. I did kind of I've done a couple of test launches that I didn't announce them. It was just kind of internal, trying to test the website's going to have a store built into it. It's going to have a lot of stuff. It's going to be extremely basic up front, but I'm going to grow it and develop it, and I can do a lot of things with it. It's just right now my goal is to launch it and do it effectively the way that I want it to be. That being said, that's when my new supplier will launch. I do have hats now. If you see any links to my old store, which is I was just please, I've stopped using them on current videos. I have tried to go back and start removing them from previous videos as well. All the various links I had to that store, I'm completely doing away with that store as well. And I had a lot of problems with that supplier, and just yeah, no longer going to be working with them. But it's not, I can't just click a button and make the store go away either. It's really shady, honestly, if you want my true opinion, how they set the whole thing up. Granted, in the beginning I was just trying to figure it out. I don't know this stuff. This isn't what I do. I'm an HVAC tech, but I'm trying my best to do this well and do it right. And just you're seeing the process happen. regardless, the store is coming. I'm hoping by the end of December I can officially launch it, or sometime in December is my goal to launch. I'm not going to guarantee that that is going to happen, but I'm really working hard into making that happen. I still got a lot of things, specifically with the supplier and the hats and the. These are the new shirts, by the way, too. This is the shirts from there. The vinyl and things what they use is a way better quality than what the previous supplier was using. So it's coming. I do ask for patience, and yeah, we'll get it figured out for sure. Let's see. Let me kind of breeze through the comments here. Started. Da, 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 da. Does anybody have any final questions or anything of that nature? Anything at all before uh, before I start closing anything out here? Just if you have any questions, now's a good time to ask them, discuss them. We can have a conversation about it. Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where, hmm. Yeah, that's a hard question. I'll be honest. Genuinely, I doing just doing what I do. Right. End of the day, I'm not going to start my own HVAC company. I've never had well, I haven't had an interest in that in a very long time. I'm not going to say I never had an interest in it, but it's not something I'm going to do. Um, you know, when it comes to retirement, my long term of where I want to be and what I want to do is what you're seeing it behind me. Homesteading, living this kind of lifestyle. Everything in my life and my career, all that I have is growing to that point of building somewhere at home for my family that you know at some point I don't need to work anywhere else. To support them. So. In terms of 5 years from now, I just doing what I'm doing now. Just continuing to try to build the next generation of technicians. Continuing to try to strengthen this industry and strengthen the people in it, and setting a standard in a new way of things that a lot of people just haven't done. There's so many things, so many stigmas, dogmas, whatever you want to call them, about HVAC and why people don't want to come to this trade, and I don't want to continue to be. I don't want to feed all those same mistakes that I see people have made for so long. I want to create something new, something different, and be better at what we do. His mic diagnosis. That's funny. Yeah. Um, I'm probably gonna go in, and if I could have a creative way to try to leave that in there, I'm gonna see if I can. The whole mic thing just is pretty funny, to be honest. It was definitely funny. Um, okay. I'm gonna close it with that, guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the support. Make the time for your family. That's just something I firmly believe in. Our family needs us, and they need our time. They need to. Your kids have so many abilities to do things. We have such a strong tendency to underestimate their capabilities personally. That's something I firmly believe, and I think that our kids are way more capable than we allow them to be. So many times we get so focused on creating a safe space for them that, you know, we just we don't allow them to be as much as they could be when we do stuff like that sometimes. And it's not a criticism, something I struggle with personally myself. Regardless, make the time, especially for your spouse as well. Your spouse really needs you. This is a hard industry. It's a hard, demanding career. Again, Nathaniel, I really appreciate the super chat on that, bud. That was huge. And I'll see y'all hopefully December. I plan on trying to do this as kind of a monthly thing. So sometime maybe the end of December or whatever, we'll be sitting down. We'll be talking again. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Again, if anybody ever has anything, you're always welcome to send me an email. I'm not going to promise on when I can get back to you in that email, but you're welcome to send me one. And I will do my best to respond to you accordingly. I do know that somebody's got an email about our vein puller that we built custom for the CVHEs and Fs. I've forgotten about you. It just when I'm at the shop, I've forgotten the last couple of times. So sorry. Anyway, we'll close it out, guys. Appreciate it.